A very warm welcome to all of you joining us today on yet another edition of The Spotlight, bringing to you a story that ignites change not only in Sri Lanka but around the world. Now, the area of motorsports has been in existence for quite some time in Sri Lanka. But there is much more that goes on behind the wheel and behind the scenes as well. Today we have with us an individual who has broken boundaries and is also a trailblazer in the industry. Join me in welcoming Jorgina Wijewardana, CEO and founder of JW Networks.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us today, and an honor to have you with us. And Jorgina, my first question to you, we're getting straight into the topic.
Yeah.
Your journey to becoming the founder and CEO of JW Networks. What is this all about? How did you start, and what was the driving force into this?
The origin story of JW Networks.
Yeah.
So I have a personal podcast that I do. It's called Georgie's Trip in the Dipping, and I have two hosts from England. Okay. Two Brits are hosting the whole thing, but that is the first Sri Lankan motorsport-based podcast that we have here in Sri Lanka. And I've been interviewing, so this is the third season, so 3 years we've been doing this. And I've been interviewing people like Mario Andretti from Andretti Sports, to Jos Capito from Williams team principal for F1 team, and then so many high profile people from the industry itself for motorsports globally. And what I realized is there are so many interconnected fields, areas that brings the whole sport together in the global platform, but we are only focusing on one thing, that is the car or the racer, and we never think beyond that there's a story here, there are teamworks here or anything. And some of these high profile people that come over to the podcast, they always ask these two questions. They have two common questions to ask me. They either ask what Sri Lanka is because they don't know where we exist, or whether we are existing in a country like this, or whether we are a part of India. And one day when I posted a burnout which took place in Sri Lanka at a car meetup on my Instagram stories, one of the William engineers texted me and asked, "Oh Georgie, I didn't know that you guys have a burnout culture in Sri Lanka." And I wanted to tell him, well, we do. We have a culture, and we do have motorsports in Sri Lanka as well. But I thought, okay, rather than me saying, why don't I do some sort of a project and show the world that these are the talents that we have, these are the cultures that we have, and this is the exposure of a country that we need here. So that's how the whole JW Networks came into light.
So what is the work that you all do? How do you all facilitate motorsports here in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so the first project that we launched was called Girls on Wheels, which took place last November. And we will be having the third volume of it this coming June on the 15th as well. So that is the first Sri Lankan motorsport and road safety awareness program, and also the first female motorsport and road safety awareness program in the country. So what we do is, you see, I'm not a racer, but I'm still doing work colluded with the motorsport industry. I'm a part of the industry, but not being a racer. So that's what I want to promote as well. You can be anything you want in the world. You can do any job and still keep your passion intact into the industry, because you can be a lawyer, a doctor, a social media content creator, an influencer, and still be a part of the industry, doing the work that you love and doing the job that you like as well. So when it comes to that, I want to promote for women the opportunities that they can have in the industry as well, because some may not be wanting to be a racer and they just might want to be a marketeer, but that's exactly the industry want as well, because when it comes to a motorsport team, they need sponsors, they need branding, they need PR, they need marketings. So for that, those are the job opportunities that they can get as well. So I want to promote that, and also I wanted to promote road safety, because I don't think no one would be disagreeing when it comes to women driving on the road, because it's like a misbelief that they keep on saying. If something goes wrong, they will always jump and say, oh, that's a woman, definitely a woman driving. But the thing is, like, it's not because of a woman driving, it's because sometimes it doesn't matter about the gender, it's about the confidence and whether you are capable of handling that wheel or not. So you providing that awareness when it comes to off the track and on the track, you can actually provide provide better drivers on and off track and disciplines. So that's what we wanted to promote here at the first project. So we started on November that.
So now Girls on Wheels, you said this is the first in Sri Lanka. So before that there were no initiatives for women to head into the field of racing?
No. Unfortunately, no. But it's time to change that. So that's why we are going with this project, because like I said earlier when we have a chat as well, for us and for others, it's easier for them to keep on complaining, saying, oh, we didn't have this opportunity, we don't have this. It's easier for us to complain. But we need to start somewhere and change it, so that in the future, the next generation won't be having any issues just to complain, but they will be having the opportunity and the choice to whether to get it in or not, like the choice to make. And I don't think it's our right to make a choice instead of other people. For them, they need to have their rights of making a choice, and that's exactly what we are giving them.
Now, Girls on Wheels, what does this initiative include for women?
Okay, so first of all, we have a theory and a practical session that we do. Sri Lanka Motorsport is the federation for the Sri Lankan motorsports. So every country has a federation for the country itself that is governed by the Ministry of Sports in the country, and we have SLAS in short. So from SLAS, the secretary Shehan Ditisera always, and then Abid Dangala, he's the technical committee chairman. So both of them always come and support us on these projects. So they come over and do the theoretical session where they teach these girls from how to tie their hair to what to wear and how to get into a kart and what sort of things, like what is a racing line, what's the break point, what is karting, because karting is actually the first step to get into motorsports if you want to be a racer. And I didn't know that, and if I knew that, I would have become a racer by now. So I want to give that opportunity for the girls who would be interested in, and if they don't, then they know where to go if they still want to be connected to the industry itself. So they do that theoretical session, and afterwards we're giving them the opportunity of getting the practical sessions. Just because you go through a book, that doesn't mean that everything is going into the head. So we need to be doing those things practically. It's like cooking. We can read the recipe, but until we start making it and making mistakes and all that, you don't get it. So we get these girls into these karts so that they get that thing, the taste of the first karting, so that they get to know, okay, this is exactly how I should be handling this. This is the pressure, you know, what is the G-force? I can tell you, okay, there's a thing called G-force, it's affecting you, you need to be physically trained and all that, but unless you try it on, you would never realize what a G-force is. I can give you all these scientific descriptions and explanations, but you won't understand that, right? So we go through the theoretical sessions, and after we give them the practical sessions, and end of the year we are expecting to keep it as a race. So all of these people who have participated since last November get to compete each other and, you know, feel that adrenaline and everything that they have learned into a proper race, so that they get that experience.
So compete in karting.
Compete in karting, because that's the first step when it comes to motorsports. After karting, you can do you can choose whether you want to you know, improve in karting and go on, or whether you want to go into rally or motocross, or you can do anything. But first you need to go with the baby step, and that is the karting session.
Now you're highly involved with the Formula One racing as well. I mean, this might be a little direct, but is there any reason as to why Sri Lanka hasn't produced any drivers out there?
Yeah, because, well, not to offend anybody, but this is my personal opinion and what I have seen. It's because we haven't given the opportunity properly for them to get trained and go for that global platform. Because what I've seen in my eyes and what I've heard with the stories of all these people that I have interviewed all these years is the fact that they train from the childhood, and all of these people are not coming from wealthy families. They are coming from very humble backgrounds, but there are people to support these kids so that they can pursue their dreams. When it comes to Sri Lanka, of course, we have a financial issue, and we keep on saying motorsport is expensive, but every sport is expensive. Nothing is cheap, and specifically these days, nothing is cheap, not even living. But if you consider bodybuilding, for an example, I take it as an example, if you consider bodybuilding, that is one of the most expensive sports in the world, because you have to spend on your supplements, the nutrition, the trainings. It's a lot of work and a lot of money involves. But in Sri Lanka, majority of the people who are pursuing that dream is they are coming actually from very humble beginnings. They don't have wealth in that manner, and they want to pursue that dream, they want that passion, and that is their main goal as well. But not to offend, like I said earlier, but if you are coming from a wealthy family, you have so much of options. If something is not working out for you, you will drop down that, and then you will go for another thing and start something else. But for these kids, that is their goal. So they would do anything, any sacrifice, and go for it. If we consider our cricketers, our runners, they are all coming from small backgrounds, very humble beginnings, very humble backgrounds, but they have pursued that. They have taken this country name onto that global platform as well. So in the same manner, we as a country, we need to support all these kids who are having the talent to at least give it a try and check it out whether they have the talent or not, or whether they have that gut to take it off to the next level or not. But I don't think that we have given enough opportunities.
And I'm sure there's talent.
It is definitely the talent.
Because even among the races that we see, there is amazing talent. And
there's amazing talent.
A lot of questions that I have in mind is, why don't they go ahead? You know, why is it limited to the Sri Lankan you know, racing scheme? There's so much more that the world has to offer, and it's a good thing that you bring glory to your country. So Jorgina, my next question for you is, now in the recent, in Sri Lanka, we experienced an unfortunate incident and tragedy at, you know, the Fox Hill racing car race. So a lot of theories, speculations are going around this incident, and of course investigations also going around as well. But I think the main question that everyone has is, and it all comes down to one word, and that is safety. Right? Whether it's in relation to the driver or whether it's in relation to spectators. I just want to know, you know, there's no point us talking about what happened, but from your perspective and from your expertise as well, what do you think some approaches that we could implement to stop this from happening again in the future, because innocent lives are lost.
Yeah, innocent lives.
So what can we do?
So when it comes to motorsport, there are two specters that we need to consider. First of all, from the organizing side, and secondly, mainly when it comes to the spectators. If you check Formula 1 racing and all the other international platform racing, there's a huge way of handling these spectators. There are security measures taken off, and all these spectators who are coming to check out these races also, they're very knowledgeable in where they're supposed to be standing. If they break the barriers and come in front, what would happen, like these things. So we need to first of all make all these people aware who are coming, the spectators, on what they should do and what they should not do, and what would take place if they do not pursue these laws and regulations and the limitations that the organizers have been provided for them. And from the organizing side also, so when it comes to safety, people actually, internationally wise speaking, when it comes to safety, there's a misbelief that motorsport is not safe, but it's not actual the true, because if we go back in time, yes, it was not that safety, but still people did that. But now they have improved in a drastical way. They have come up with driver safeties, track regulations are there, safety regulations are there, spectator regulations they are there, like everything from what the driver is wearing to the flags to the barriers, everything is provided so that everyone can be safe, including the driver and the spectators. So basically, when you have a race, you should be very focused on the drivers rather than the spectators, because you do all those measurements to keep the spectators on the proper place, and you won't be expecting them to jump off the barriers and do all those things and meet all these issues. But unfortunately, when it comes to Sri Lanka, we have to make our spectators aware of what they should be doing and what they should not do as well as the drivers and the track regulations. There are so many safety regulations going on. So FIA is the head for all these judging parts, like the regulations, from car designs to everything. And if we follow all these rules and regulations, I'm pretty sure that we can keep it very safe for all those people, and we won't be facing any of these issues at all. Of course, motorsport is dangerous. I'm not saying that it's not dangerous at all, but there are measures that we can take in actually not making these issues again and over again. And I'm pretty sure that there's an investigation going on for Fox Hill, and I'm not going to comment on Fox Hill because I don't want to be commenting on.
No, definitely. But from your point of an expert in the field, it's important that we know where we went wrong. Maybe it's not a comment, but to know that this will not happen again in the future, because you said now spectators should be sort of given awareness. How do we do this?
So what we started was after I saw this incident, I spoke to my friend who's helping me with the whole work. She is handling all my marketing as well. So I spoke with her and I was telling her we need to do something so that these type of incidents won't be taking place again. So we started this series called Racing 101, and we started posting these video clips on our Instagram page and on our TikTok, saying what a person who comes to a race as a spectator should do and should not do. And we went through all these regulations, the international regulations, and we started making all these videos so that people can get awareness of what they should do and what they should not do. And it's not enough, because just because we post a video, we can't expect people to follow those things and obey those things. But when it comes to the venue itself, we need to implement these things so that it won't be. It has to be in a very national level. And the whole thing that I have witnessed is when it comes to Formula 1. Since I am working with those things, I'm going to take it as an example. Definitely. All these people who are coming as spectators, they know what they should do and what they should not do. And they know from the flags, like what a flag is like, what the yellow flag is standing for, what a blue flag is standing for, and what sort of track rules are there and everything. They are very knowledgeable in that part because they've been trained since childhood. They've been exposed to the sport and they know what is going on and what is not supposed to be happening and all that. But we didn't have that here. So it's time for us to change it and start training, giving out. Even at the venue, we can, whenever they get the ticket, we can give them all these written notes. We can tell them as an awareness thing, okay, if you so by taking this ticket, these are the rules that you're supposed to be following. Please do not break the barriers and go in front and do these things. Please refrain from doing these things. These are all for your own safety. And just because we put stickers, we can't make people read those things and obey those things. So from our end, we need to do the best that we can do so that something like this would prevent from happening again. And still, if they are going to break barriers, then there has to be tight securities so that they cannot go above a barrier. So the barriers have to be very, very top high. If you check the Formula 1 racing tracks also, it's really high. You have to basically climb it if you want to jump over. So we need to take those types of measures so that our spectators can be very safe as well. Because we are living in Sri Lanka and we know how people behave, most of the people behave as well. So just because we say they won't be following it, so we need to take drastic measures so that they can't do anything.
But that means we have a lot to do as a country.
We have a lot to do.
Because the fact that we're still creating awareness means
we are lacking a lot.
Yes. So now that was from the participants' point of view. Let's talk, Jorgina, about safety and support provided to the drivers, their vehicles, their conditioning of the vehicles, training, gear, equipment. Let's talk about that as well. In Sri Lanka, what are the services, what are the guidelines, boundaries that come if you are a driver in the racing field?
So it doesn't matter whether it's Sri Lanka or India or China. There's an international regulation going on, as I said, FIA. So you need to obey the FIA regulations if you're having a race. So those are the rules that you have to go through. So all the equipments, all the safety measures, everything has to be done in the order of regulations, starting from car designs to track conditions to a driver, from the helmet that they wear to the tires that they're going to choose, from the cars that they're going to choose, the track conditions. Like for an example, people started talking about Fox Hill because it was all dusty and there were issues with the whole thing and all that, but there were things that they could provide as well at the time, and I'm pretty sure that organizers did try their best to do the whole thing as well. It was very messy and chaotic, so because of that I'm actually not going to comment on that, because I also have lack of information, so I don't think I'm capable of commenting on something when I don't have the full information about it. But when it comes to safety measures and all, for an example, if I take Formula 1 cars, they have a halo now on the car. Those days they didn't have that, but by bringing a halo like that for the car design itself, which got approved by FIA and they implemented on those things, it has proven several times on how much of safety that it has provided for the driver when they get into drastic accidents. So in the same manner, so basically when you have a race, there has to be at least 2 ambulances on call, and then there has to be a surgeon on call at a nearby hospital, and there has to be a major nearby hospital, so if something goes wrong they can be transported quickly as possible so that they can get the proper medical attention as well. So there are things like that as well, and there has to be a medical camp there as well. If it's a minor thing that is happening, they don't have to go to a hospital, then the doctors who are there available can be a part of that as well. So going back to the whole thing that we started from the beginning, that's exactly what I was trying to say as well. You still can be a part of motorsports and be a doctor at the same time as well. So in the same manner, there are so much of safety measurements that for the drivers that has been provided, and for people who are marshalling as well, because marshals have to be behind a barrier, they are not supposed to be coming off the barrier, and there are like the flag that they will be taking, like if it's a double yellow flag or whether it's a yellow flag. So the drivers should be knowledgeable on understanding that part as well, because it's not only about the organizers, it's about the driver as well. The driver has to be very knowledgeable on track conditions, regulations, the flags, specifically the flags, and the orders that they will be giving. Like if somebody says pit, the box, and if a driver doesn't know what box means, they'll be going around the track there, but they're supposed to be pitting at that time.
So there is communication taking place.
There's communication taking place every single time as well. Even if you take Formula 1 or even if you take just normal racing rally as well, there are always intercoms working for them. So they always communicate with the team. So that's why I said that we lack the awareness when it comes to the whole behind the scenes, because every single race that takes place, there's a huge team behind it, and every single time it's not just about a speed car or just a cute looking, good looking driver. It's always about a whole team that's working together, because when it comes to a driver, he should be very skillful, of course, but at the same time he should be very knowledgeable about the technical measures that taking place, or what the mechanical aspects of his car or not. If you are a driver and if you have no clue what's happening in a car, how are you supposed to report back to the team or your engineer saying that there's some sort of an issue like this? My tires on this side is not working properly. If you don't know if it's your tires, you can't say anything. You can only say, oh, something is wrong, and the engineer will be killing himself to figure out what is wrong with you, right? So in the same manner, it's every single person's responsibility to get themselves up to update so that they won't be actually making any issues and contributing to drastic accidents as well.
Welcome back to the show this evening. We are in conversation with Jorgina Wijewardana, an expert from the motorsport arena. So, I mean, so much to talk about. So anyway, you were also, just to divert into something else, you were also into the communication field as well. So now, with your background in broadcasting and now you're into motorsports, how do you combine these two different elements in your life? How does it all work together?
So for me, motorsport passion comes from my family, because from my dad itself, they're all petrol heads. So that part was always in my DNA, and my brother is actually a motorsport engineering student, and he is also very involved in the automotive industry, and he's doing his own thing with the automotive stuff and all that. So I had no break from that.
Right.
So it was already there, and I liked the whole broadcasting, the media work, and I was very passionate and talented in that area, so I pursued that part. And then I came to a point where I figured out, okay, why can't I combine these two together and do something that I really love about and I am passionate about. So that's why I combined these two and started whole process of doing all these, so that on one way I'm doing what I like, and the other way I'm providing the community opportunities so that they can actually proceed with their dreams and passion as well.
Now your podcast, I'm not going to say the name because I get confused with what does it go?
So it's called Georgie's Stripping the Dipping.
Right. Okay. So anyway, this podcast, as you said, it is the first in Sri Lanka, offering, it comes as a platform for people to come and speak about, international personalities to come and speak about the motorsports arena. So now from this, what is your hope for the listeners? What do you expect the listeners to take from these podcasts that you do?
This is actually, as far as I know, there are so many motorsport podcasts there are in the world, but this is, as far as myself and my two hosts knows, this is the only podcast that speaks about every aspect of the industry which is getting connected to motorsports. So what we need from our listeners is to listen to all these stories that these people are saying, the journeys that they have so far come, and the initiatives or the origin steps that they have taken, so that they also, the listeners also, can take that as an advice and pursue their dreams as well. For an example, so there's a personality called Virtual Statman. His name is Sean Kelly, very famous in F1, and I asked him, how did you get into this, Sean? And then he was like saying, Georgie, so they call me Georgie.
Right.
Georgie, I don't actually have the educational background that I should be having for these things, but I talk my way through. So that's an option.
Of course.
Right?
But is that safe?
It is safe, because the job criteria that they do, unless you want to be a lawyer or a racing driver or an engineer or, you know, a doctor, for other jobs that you have to do, you just really need the knowledge and the talent. And a degree doesn't I'm not condemning degrees or the educational background, but just because you have a degree, that doesn't mean that you are good at that job. And if you have that talent and the passion, without a degree also, you will be pursuing something that you are remarkable at. And for an example, so I interviewed the communication director for Mercedes Formula One team. Her name is Nicole Bien. She used to be the communication director, now she retired, and then she's doing her own thing separately as well. And her background from educational side is actually, she has a degree in languages. And she became a communication director in Mercedes F1. So there's a huge story behind that as well. And she's been working for Niki Lauda, Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, all these crazy high-profile people that we actually worship and say, oh my God, he's a legend.
Yeah.
And she actually got the opportunity of working with these people. And if you go and just consider a person's educational background and just keep on saying, no, 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 you really need to have this, otherwise I won't be giving a job, then she wouldn't have become that person who she became now.
Yeah.
So regardless of whatever the educational background that you have, you really need to try out and give the person to a chance so that they can show us what the talent that they are requiring as well.
Right. So now, in terms, now we were also talking that a lot of people personally, and I mean, yes, being in the fields, we know that when you're a driver or a presenter, you are the face.
Yeah.
Right? But there is an entire team behind a production or an entire team behind a race. So I'm pretty sure you would have heard multiple people coming up to you and saying, I thought it's just the driver in the race, but then how do you address people? I mean, you can't be using any high-profile terminology and saying this is not the case. How do you break that myth with people who come up to you and say things like that?
Okay, so they always say, oh, you know, it's just a driver and it's just about driving speed cars.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to explain in very jargon words and everything,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go out to the people properly, because that's not the way of explaining stuff. So I ask them, have you watched a race? And they do say, yes, I watch it every day on the screen. And then I ask, how do you watch the whole thing on TV? Well, the channel shows it. So the channel to show it, there are people working constantly to give you that footages. And have you watched the media day? And they'll be saying, yes, I have watched the media day. Then I'll be asking, have you seen the whole crew that they had behind them? Because every single racer has a PR personality next to him recording everything that they say. And they have to guide them from one counter to the other counter for all the media outlets that are there present at the track, so that they won't be missing anything. And when it comes to the teams also, even when you're watching the whole race, there are people, engineers on the screens telling them what to do and what not to do. There are pit crews changing the tires, you know, giving them water and everything. So it's not that people don't see these things, it's just that we don't grasp that idea. We don't digest the idea that, oh, these are very important stuff. They are people who are helping this person. It's not just about a driver, but we are more concerned about just a person getting into the car and just driving through that and, you know, meeting that checker flag, that we actually forget the whole thing. So that's, I'm trying to break it down very easily and ask questions so they realize it themselves that, oh, okay, there's more than we see.
Now, you were mentioning that there is an international federation.
Yeah.
How does it go?
Federation Internationale de Automobile.
Right. So now all these rules and regulations that they send and that they implement, do we follow it here in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, they have to follow it. It's not a matter of whether we like to follow it or not. If it's motorsports, they have to follow it, and the federation here, the foundation, the local foundation, is responsible for actually sticking to those regulations.
Now, all these rules and regulations that are implemented, and is there some sort of report that we send back to the International Federation? How do they guide us? How do they keep us in check? As we're still a developing country in terms of the motorsports arena as well.
Yeah.
And we have a lot to do. How do they sort of monitor
the whole thing? So as far as I know, in Sri Lanka, even though we have motorsport races taking place, there's zero when it comes to FIA sanctioned races. So none of these are actually FIA sanctioned races that we have. These are like, so it's like, these are like just normal local races that we have, and it's not going to get involved with the international racing arena or anything. So it's not FIA sanctioned races. These are just normal races. As far as I know, I might be wrong, but for the best of my knowledge, it is the case. But there are always members who are appointed by FIA to each country. They are the people who are responsible for checking these rules and regulations, whether these are being followed or not, and then they are doing the reporting stuff and all that. So that's how they communicate and do the whole work. So it's like an embassy sort of a thing. So every country has an embassy in other countries, and they are the people who are acting as those people. So if you take US embassy, the US ambassador is acting as the US nation in Sri Lanka, checking out on their people. So in the same manner, FIA also do have members here and all other countries who are supposed to be checking out all these things, and, you know, providing all these guidelines, and, you know, doing all the measurements, and providing all these safety regulations and all that as well.
Now, the car circuits, the racing areas in Sri Lanka, are they up to standard?
So we only have one karting track at Bandaragama that is FIA standard. So when it comes to FIA, there are gradings for not only karting, actually, for all the tracks. And for us, there's only one track for karting. unfortunately, it's only for karting,
Right.
and it's only at Bandaragama, which is an FIA standard karting track that we have. Other than that, none of the other karting tracks are actually FIA standards, because there are, so when it comes to FIA standards, it doesn't mean that other tracks are unsafe.
Right.
It means that there are particular regulations and measurements that they have to take, like from the width, from the long distance. There are things that if you're creating a chicken, if you're having a hairpin, like there are things that you have to take. Like for an example, for Formula 1 racing track, there are like as I can remember, it has to be maximum only 5 kilometers distance, and there has to be a specific width that you have to take, and it can't be bigger than that, and it can't be narrower than that as well. And the cars, when it comes to cars, there's a specific size of a car that has to be there, and a specific type of an engine that has to be there. And for an year, there are only 2 or 3 engines that you can swap as well. If you are going to swap it other than that, then it's a grid penalty or a fine. You can't go over the budgets as well. So there are very tight regulations that you need to follow. So for us here, I think rather than having a Formula 1 track, given the fact that we are in Sri Lanka, it's a very beautiful island that we have. The best is actually having rally races here, and I'm sure that the rally championship will be here. If we get the opportunity, we can actually give them an opportunity to come here as well, because this is a very beautiful country, and I'm very proud of being a Sri Lankan here, and I want to give them the opportunity, like, this is my country, come to this country, these are the places that you can explore. So rally is actually the best option that we can have as an international race here as
So in
well.
Sri Lanka, around how many circuits do we have, or race tracks, if you call it?
So racing tracks, we have Katukuranda one, which is done by Air Force, if
Okay.
I'm not wrong. That is there for all these motocross racing, and then Fox Hill is there for those types of racing as well. And then we have Pandaragama for the karting races, if we are taking in a proper manner, like in a very international standard, in a huge race event sort of a thing. That's Pandaragama for us. And we have 2 other karting tracks, which is the one that we are using is actually at Kote Pro Ride. It's an electric kart track. It is really good for a beginner to get in rather than going to Bandaragama and getting into those karts, because this is an electric kart and the track is small. So as an amateur, you can get into that one, and you can slowly get used to it rather than straight away going to the deep end of the spool. Right? And then at Port City, there's a track as well. It's also not a bigger track like the Bandaragama one, but they also have that there. So 3 karting tracks as far as I can remember and know. And then rally tracks, there is one at Ampara, and they are actually building it up properly these days as well, as I know. And then Fox Hill is there, and then most of the racing is taking place at Katukurunda, those types of races. And then Magastota, Mahameruwa. Mahameruwa, they started a new track, so it's up to the testings as well these days for them to try out these new track for the racing stuff and all. And something that I would suggest is actually getting a track for drifting, because that's the part that we don't very usually speak about. But when it comes to racing also, there are aspects. It's not just about motocross or karting, there's drifting as well. So those who like to drift, they can be a part of a drift athlete as well. And there are only few people who are drifting in Sri Lanka and who has the knowledge about it, and some of them also got to whole drifting part, and they learned it from either YouTube or learning from somebody that they knows and all that. So that's what we lack. We lack people on actually teaching how to do these things. That's what we need to implement.
So now that you mentioned that we have a few circuits, I mean, across the country, why aren't we not having any international rallies or races here in Sri Lanka? If we, maybe it's not up to the most perfect standard, But I think we can start somewhere.
We can definitely start somewhere, and I'm pretty sure that we can at least get one leg from WRC, which is World Rally Championship, here as well, if we can pitch it properly for them.
Yeah.
I'm sure in the future they will be working out to bring that here as well. But there's something else as well when it comes to rally or any international races. So we speak about international racing and races and stuff, but people actually fail to understand how much of an economic development that we can get if we have some sort of race here. Because for an example, let's say that we are having a World Rally Championship, one round in Sri Lanka. That means a team is coming down, and their racers, the drivers, the engineers, the whole team is coming down, and their family is coming down to check it out, and the fans who are watching it, they are also coming down to check it out.
It would be a huge
it's
boost
a huge
for
boost for hospitality and also for local economy, the local community. For an example, if the track is at Ampara, for an example, and the track is surrounded by small pettikade or thekade, the foreigners or even us, we won't be looking for Cinnamon Grand or, you know, the high profile hotels far away. We would be definitely going for that small shop and buying something straight away and coming inside the track just to check it out the rest of the race. So that itself is improving the growth of the local community. We are giving back to the community so that they can earn themselves as well. And hospitality, how many hotels are there? We can sell out in a easy way if those whole thing, or if that happens and all these people come down to Sri Lanka. And tourism, it's automatically a boost for them.
Yeah.
So all these people who come here, they get to see what sort of a country we are, because it's not that they are only going to the track and watch the race and go back home.
Yeah,
they are going to stay
on, yes.
Yeah, and they are going to explore and
country.
visit out. So you know, these are the opportunities that we are actually failing to see as well.
So hopefully, you know, someone watching us today might,
yes,
you know,
please.
take that on.
Please
and
help us in bringing
honestly,
this country to that global platform. That's all I ask.
So, I mean, time is ticking, but I have another question that I want to pose to you.
Yeah.
Now, currently, Sri Lanka, we are, you know, we're having the import restrictions on vehicles.
Yeah.
The vehicles used in races in Sri Lanka, how are we faring in that way in terms of security for the driver? Because spare parts are being, you know, there is a restriction in that area. So how is it?
So
faring
some of the parts and some of the stuff, they can actually take it if they're racing.
Okay.
So they don't have that issue up to a certain limit, certain level, certain limit. But the thing is, like, those are also affecting when it comes to rules and regulations. We have to consider that side as well, because sometimes our people can abuse that power and say, oh, actually we are bringing it down for the racing, and then they can use it for their own personal use, and then they abuse that. So that's why it's very hard for us to implement these rules and regulations as well. So I'm not going to blame the government on that, because we as citizens and people who are getting into the industry also have responsibilities on handling that as well. But as far as I know, when it comes to racing and their equipments, they do have some easy ways so that they can get it and get it fixed so that they can race as well.
Now, how do you see the landscape of motorsport evolving in the near future?
If all these projects work properly and if we get the proper support from all these people, I'm pretty sure that it's not very far that we can be taking our name to the international platform.
I think it's just we need one push.
Yes, we need just one push. And I'm hoping that whoever watches this give us that push so that I can bring this. Because, you know, personally, when people ask me, oh, Georgie, what is Sri Lanka? And, oh, are you a part of India? I'm not saying that I'm very happy about it, because I would rather recognize myself as a Sri Lankan, and when I say I am from Sri Lanka, I would like for them to know what Sri Lanka is. And that's exactly why I'm doing all these things, because I've seen so many kids with so much of talent, and if they had that opportunity, they would have done remarkable jobs. We have Dilantha Malagamu here and Ashan Silva here, but I would like to have another person coming in from the younger generation as well, because I mean, even from the mechanical side, the automotive side, engineering side, there are so many kids who are really talented in that, but they don't have the opportunity of studying further for these stuff like aerodynamics or motorsport engineering. It's not available in Sri Lanka for them to study at all. So they have to be able to go to UK or somewhere else to study it, and it's not affordable for every single person. Imagine, there was this quote that I saw. It says, maybe the cure for cancer might be in a person's head who can't even afford the education. So it's something like that here as well. If there are availability for the educational backgrounds from automotive to everything, imagine the talent and the way this country can build up. Because for an example, recently a friend of mine who is living in US, he's not a Sri Lankan, he's a US citizen and not from a US descendant, as he's a black American. He was telling me, he didn't know about Sri Lanka at all, he didn't know what Sri Lanka is. He got to know Sri Lanka through me, and then he has done his research and he actually told me, Georgie, if you guys actually do proper work, you all can beat US in 5 years. And I was very happy about it, but in the same manner I was sad about it as well, because we have that opportunity, we have that capability, but we are not doing anything about it.
All right, so we're hoping for a better future, and anyway, time is catching up and I'm getting instructions from in there that we have to wrap things up. But nevertheless, I want to thank you for joining us on behalf of the entire team, and wishing you nothing but the best. And we're hoping you get that one push.
Yes,
you know?
I'm hoping to get that push. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And that being said, it is time to wrap things up for this week. Join us again next week for a story that will ignite change. Until we meet again, have a pleasant night and be safe.